it might look mad, let me explain. I've changed around what's in the beds. This bed has got onions and rhubarb. The middle bed now has strawberries. Now the thing is, strawberries have flowers that need to be pollinated, and the bed with the strawberries has a viral mesh which doesn't let those types of insects through. So we're swapping it. This one has bird netting, so it's a much wider net to stop the birds eating the strawberries, because they used to be here, but it doesn't stop the other insects or the pollinators, so we're just going to swap them over. It's easier than changing the actual nets. Okay, I got that side. It was indeed painted on. That's the easy bit, because this bed needs some repairs. Oh, it's very sugary. How long has it been since we made the original?
Oh, no idea. A while.
A long time. Let me just explain, because I think a lot of our guys are all relatively new-ish. Right, these are just wooden frames with hinges that go on top of the raised beds. But the bit that holds the nets, these blue tubes, is actually a kit we bought from Quick Crop years and years and years ago that has these corner pieces, plastic corners, that screw onto the frame, and it has a little hole, bracket, I don't know what to call the word, that this blue tubing fits into really snugly. And then the tops have these kind of T-pieces that the tubes go over, and it holds it all together and keeps it in shape. But it's just, the reason I did it way back then, when we first started, was everyone that had nets on their beds just used bamboo canes and things, and then used a brick to hold the nets down. And we started off with all those methods. But it was just a pain every time you wanted in the bed, having to take all that away and roll up the nets, and it put me off weeding and dealing with things. This was just a much, much easier system, because it's a hinge, so you could just lift it. And we love it, and it has lasted, like we say, I think, I'll have to look, so I'll put the official thing in text here. Off the top of my head, I think it could easily be 8 years. Could be. 7 years. It's way back in the early days of YouTube anyway. Which, if you go, I'll link the video of us making them at the end, and you can go and watch it. It's a very old video, and you'll be able to see that it was the early days of us making videos. Okay, so that one's gone, this one's gone. I do have a box of spare parts if we need them, but I think it's actually the wood might be the issue, the frames.
That might roll towards you.
So I'm going to take advantage of this then, because if Kate's fixing those, that lets me get into the strawberries and I can put some straw under them. Take advantage of the situation. It's quite a small strawberry patch. It's just this section of the bed here, because I've got strawberries in the green stock as well. Now I don't need to put a mulch under those ones. I put it under these, the reason being, when it's got the fruit on it, the fruit's heavy and it'll fall over and it'll touch the ground, and it's sitting there on the ground and it rots because it gets wet. It sits in the wet ground. Now, I suppose there's also that thing of, if it's on the ground, it's easier for the slugs and things to get to, and maybe you might put mulch down because you're trying to prevent that. We live in quite a damp climate. Slugs and snails are just part of it. I don't think there's a slug-proof mulching method out there. I don't think one exists. But that's okay, because that's not my purpose. So I'm starting now to get little stalks and flowers, so it's a good time to do this. Everybody's got their preferred thing they put down. I like straw, works great for me. I use this stuff, this is Strulch. Now, a lot of folk use it because of the claims about it being good to deter slugs. I can't say if it is or isn't, because I haven't used anything different as a test. But I quite like this because It's easy to handle, it's all chopped up and nice. It's easy for me to get hold of. I'm not particularly wedded to it in any way. If there was something better I discovered, I'd try it. But it just is what it is. I did used to just buy straw from the pet shop and use that. But problem is it's not all chopped up the same. So all I'm doing is putting a layer around the plants, making sure I'm not burying all the leaves in the crown and stuff. So all those people that always ask me if there's a reason for the sleepers rather than just using metal beds or just scaffolding boards, yeah, it's this. I can clamber all over these beds. Makes my life easier. As I say, it's only a tiny little strawberry patch, so this will last me for ages. Now, I don't leave a mulch on these at the end of the season, so throughout winter, because it's so wet here, and if I leave mulch on the beds, they're just absolutely sodden throughout winter, and it just causes me other problems. But this comes off at the end of the season and it goes in the compost. Straw in the compost is awesome. Done?
The one for the middle.
Yes.
To go with the handle at that side.
Okay.
Because that's the way around the screwdriver, so it goes.
Job I put off and I can't be bothered with, and it gets put off and doesn't get done because of that. Compost bins. Let me bust a myth. Hot bin composters. You can see I've got two of these guys. There is this kind of myth online that they're perfect and they just always run hot and everything's fabulous. The reality is they're just like any other compost bins. They work well when you put the effort in, or when you're able to give them what they want. So here's the thing, right? If you get your mix right, you use these as hot compost piles. Light can do with anything, but you have to get your mix right. The difference with these guys, for me anyway, is that they're an enclosed system, and given that we're in a row of houses and people's gardens and everyone sits out, neighbours might not be comfortable with you having big open compost bins. So this is fab for me. Thing is though, given we have quite a small garden and it's quite formal, in the kind of like late autumn through winter, early spring months, we don't have a lot to feed these with. It's just the kitchen scraps from the house, and it's not nearly enough to keep them warm, so they go cold over winter. It's just the way it is. It's life. We don't have enough to feed them with, they're not going to stay warm. But also the big problem we have is they let in the rain, like not all of it, but enough that when these are just sitting like that, it can get quite wet in there, and it's really a pain to try and combat. So we're at the first, try and get them sorted from over winter. They were pretty full at the start of winter. They're now almost full because they're cold, so they're not churning stuff, so they're not dropping. So what I need to do now is try and give them a kickstart to get them hot and get them churning again. To do that though, it needs a lot of green and a lot of brown. And I've got a few sacks from when we scarified the lawn, and that was it. That's just green. I need a lot of brown. Managed to get some trimmings, some hedge clippings, and I pollarded the 2 almond trees, so they got chopped up and I've got them. But also, we took advantage of some local businesses, so we went on a wee day trip. It wasn't even a day trip, it was the shortest road trip ever. Very tiny, very, very, very small road trip. Still counts as a road trip.
Yeah, we're on the road.
It's like we're nipping just along the road because we're quite lucky. We've got a few coffee roasteries around our area, so we're just nipping out to one to get some leftover stuff for the garden. Tell you about it in a sec. When we get there in a second, literally.
So yeah, so this is the stuff. I actually
fab.
There's another one here, so you
Yeah.
can see it open one. So maybe yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's maybe quite interesting for people to see what coffee beans look like as well, because
Yeah, because people are only used to seeing them roasted.
Exactly.
Oh, beans.
Yeah. So they're called green beans, in fact. So that's what they're like, and you can. Do you want to feel them? So they feel much heavier and like cold, and they're really hard compared to like roasted coffee.
Oh, sour.
Yeah, they're really vegetal. Like,
Yeah,
they're
I was going to say they're.
It's not
kind of
pleasant
grassy.
to. Yeah, exactly. Not really pleasant to consume.
Okay, so assuming you know everything there is to know about this stuff, is it actually a bean?
No, it's a seed.
It's a seed.
Interesting for a gardener. So basically the coffee grows in a fruit called a cherry, a coffee cherry. And it grows with the two seeds normally. Two seeds that go together like that inside the cherry. Yeah, and it really does look like a cherry. And then they remove the cherry in the case of washed coffee and process it by washing it and cleaning all the fruit off of it and then putting it to dry. And then you end up with this. Well, you don't quite end up with this. You end up with something called parchment, where you've got still like a white husk around it. And then the final stage of the process at origin is that they mill the coffee. So that's in great big machinery where they remove that paper husk. So what this chaff is the final little bit of when we roast the coffee. You see how there's a little bit of a papery skin there on it? That is what that is that comes off when you roast it.
So it's almost like when you have a peanut and you take it out of the shell, sometimes
and then you
it's
have
still
the
got that papery skin
exactly,
on it.
it's exactly that. So just this is actually the same coffee, so it's quite interesting to show. So this is exactly the same coffee in its green form and then roasted. So you can see how the coffee expands when you roast it.
Fabulous, thank you. Yeah, they feel like they're like recycled plastic or something.
Yeah, do me a favour. Be friendly with your local business, folks. So it's chaff. It's the papery husk that's around the coffee bean, and it comes off when the bean's roasted. If you can use local businesses' byproducts for the garden, that's awesome. So we went down to Steampunk and they gave us this, and it's fabby and it's perfect. We can use it in the compost because obviously anything organic is best put into the compost to let it compost down so that the plants can get the best use of it. But you can dig this into your soil as well, even just lightly, even just a couple of inches down, and it'll break down in the soil. Obviously it'll take time. Anything that you put in your soil is going to take time to break down and compost so the plants can use it. But it'll help with the texture in the soil, and organic matter in the soil is always good. One thing I will warn you about though, I have seen a lot of people online talking about using it as a mulch. The truth is, as you can see, you can't use this as a mulch. It's far too lightweight. The smallest breeze will just blow it all over your garden. You're much better to dig it in and actually use it as a soil improver. But that's it. Nothing interesting. All I'm going to do now is get really minging and dirty and sweaty and turn the compost. See, here's the thing. In order to get my bins going, I need to add a lot to them. But they're almost full. So I'm actually going to empty them, and I'm going to manually give it a really good mix in with this batch of green and brown that I've got, and then put that stuff back in the bins. Now, It means there's going to be wastage because I'm going to increase the volume and I won't be able to get it back in the bin, but it's more useful for me to get them hot again so they get churning quickly than it is to just leave it as is, and it'll probably cold compost and can take a year or more. Swings and roundabouts, just the way it is. It went. Uh-oh.
How much do you want to keep going? It looks quite like that when it lands. It's quite.
Are you saying we should be getting some B-roll in that?
Yeah, just the way it was hitting, and then we just go.
We'll just keep going, yeah. This is the problem with gas. It does that in the bin and that's what we know when to put it away. I can do the lifting bit since I'm taller than you. I think we've earned a coffee. And of course, that gives us the coffee grounds to put in the compost as well. Win-win. See you, folks.